Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Path's virtual art program. I'm Amanda, and today we are going to be celebrating spring with a beautiful painting of cherry blossoms. And I thought we could enjoy some soothing nature sounds as we paint today. For our project, you're going to need paper, paints, Q-tips, a paintbrush, some water, a paper towel, and a mat to put under your painting or a piece of paper. The first painting we're doing is the single branch coming off from the side. So we're going to grab some brown paint and start creating a branch. And if you'll watch, I kind of roll and wiggle my brush as I go. Not with any real plan, just getting it down there. If you feel like you've messed up at any point during the branch making process, you haven't. We're going to be putting so many beautiful blossoms over the branches that you won't see any mistakes that you think you've made. Now we're going to start using our Q-tips to dab color onto the painting. We're going to start with green for a little bit of spring leaves. Not too many, and we only want to use one Q-tip because there really aren't that many leaves to show. It's just a little hint of green. And now we're going to move on to the pink flowers. We're going to use 4 Q-tips. And dip it into your paint so that about half the Q-tip gets paint on it. And I like to dab it onto my paper towel a few times, just so I don't have a big glob on the end. And then go for it. And we're just going to dab all over the place. Make sure you keep your Q-tips in line. But if they move around a little bit, that's okay because that'll give you a more random pattern as you're dabbing. And if 4 Q-tips seem to be a little unruly, then just use 3 or 2, or you could just use 1. There's really no right or wrong here. It's always good to have some strong dark pink spots and then keep dabbing as it gets lighter and lighter. It gives interest to the painting and some depth to it. Now we're going to turn the Q-tips over and we're going to start using our white to go right over the pink. And the key here is to put the white down while the pink is still wet, so they're blending together right there on the paper. It makes a beautiful mottled effect. And I wanted to go back in and add a little bit more green, so feel free if you feel like you need a few more leaves. That's great. Now this part I think is really key and interesting. We're going to go back over some of the branches, peeking in between the blooms. You don't want to create a straight line. You want to paint and skip so that the petals look like they're in front of the branch. And you can go over the branches that you've already put down, or you can add new ones. You can do more or less. It's really up to you and what your eye sees. Really take your time through this whole process. Take breaks and pull your paintbrush back and take a look with a fresh eye every once in a while. If you're working faster than I am or slower than I am, feel free to just pause the video and work at your own pace, and then jump back in or speed up the video until you get to where we're caught up. And a good artist knows when to stop, so I think I'm done, ready to move on to our next painting. Now this painting has a little bit more going on in it. We're going to draw a hill and some grass. In my sample, I put the main tree in the middle for some symmetry, but I also like asymmetry, so this one's going to be a little asymmetrical with my hill over to the left and my main tree on top of that hill, and then some trees way far in the distance are going to be on the right. I didn't pre-draw this little hill or anything. I just used my green paint to create a little swoop. And I'm going over it a couple times to make sure it's nice and thick. When you change colors, you'll want to rinse your brush, but you also want to dry it off a little bit so that when you go into your next color, your brush isn't sopping wet. So now I'm going to make the trunk of my main tree, and I like going from the thick part of the trunk out to the thin little wisps of branches. And here I'm just thickening the very base of the tree so that it has a little bit of a fan shape at the bottom. It's a bit more realistic. And then add some branches, and again, you can't go wrong here because they're going to get covered up with the blossoms. I do take a minute and think about how far out the blossoms are going to go and where my eye's going to go for the branches, just to plan the next phase of the painting. And we're going to go ahead and put all the little dabs on for this main tree before we paint the other trees. So we start with the green and do a few leaves, and then move on to the pink. And it's the same process we did for the single branch. Dark pink, and then moving right into the white while the pink is still wet. When we have all the blossoms done on the main tree, we can move on to the little trees that are way in the distance. And to make them look like they're further back, we're going to make sure they're nice and thin and a little on the wispy side. Make sure you give your branches a little wiggle every once in a while. And even these in the background, I make sure there's a little fan going on where they hit the ground. For these, we don't need our dots to be as big, so I just use one Q-tip for the pink And then I do 2 Q-tips for the white, and that's reversed because these trees in the background, you want them to look a little hazy, a little fuzzy back there. And you'll see I just kind of go back and forth between pink and white until I get a nice balance, but these trees at the horizon are going to be a little lighter, so they're white heavy instead of pink heavy. So again with this one, I'm going to go back into my brown and paint those branches in. And I'm going to do it for the big tree and then very, very thinly for the little trees in the back. And that's an optional step. If you don't want to do those little trees in the back, then just skip it. And I think I'm going to know when to stop and call this one done. There we have it, our 2 beautiful cherry blossom paintings. As always, thank you so much for painting with me today. And make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you get updates on when we have new videos from all the staff.